Hello and welcome to first episode of Pimp My Gun on Frog Engineering channel. In this series I will show some upgrades and other stuff that you can do to your GBBRs to make them the best GBBRs the world have ever seen. Today we will be looking at L85 GBBR from WE. Of course. And I was making this prototype powered with HPA, and I noticed one thing. Every owner of L85 might wonder, why do I have this strange little lever here on the back? What does it do? Well, it rotates and springs back. And what is it supposed to do in the original L85 firearm? Definitely not this. So what it should do, according to the weapon handling manual, when you charge the rifle, but first let's remove the magazine, it's empty of course. So again, when you charge the rifle, you should be able to reach for this lever, pull it up, and then it should catch your slide and keep the bolt or the chamber open, yeah, which obviously does not happen in our GBBRs, and this effect is annoying me like crazy. So I'll do something about this and I will make it work. Let's do it. So what do you need in order to make this modification? First of all, you need air, because human beings suffocate and die without it. So make sure that you have some. Then you need a WE L85 replica GBBR. Then you need to make some preparation and print out those two parts that are in the link in the bottom under the video. You will also need one 3x5 screw. It does not have to have a head like this, it's just what I have. And you need one of those tiny screws without the head. Let's focus it just a second. And probably a regular screw with a head would work, but this is what I have, so I will use it. And this is M2 type. You might need a brass insert with M2 thread to just make it more robust, but you will see later that you can make this probably as well good without this. And you also need a tiny screw like this one. This is an M2x4 with flat head, whatever head would work. So let's get to it. First, you take the small screw and this big part, and you put this screw here on the top into this hole. And you screw it in. And we do it because this part will push directly on the metal parts to move the mechanism within your gun, and you want to make sure that this won't be worn out. Although I think it's not that necessary, as there are not very big forces in this, let's say, modification pushing on this plastic part, so probably it will never wear out. But if we are already doing something, let's do it robust and really nice. Done. Then we take this part, and this is a step probably you can avoid, but I will do it anyway just to make it more robust. I will take a M2 screw that is longer, and I will put this plastic part with a hole here aligned with the axis of this brass nut like this, And I'll try, oh, already failed. Let's do it once again. Okay, again. More or less. And I will use this screw to catch this brass nut. Yeah, I have it. And now I want to maybe a zoom. So now I want to pull the brass nut into the plastic part and mold it into it so that it stays there. So for this reason I will use an old soldering iron. I will put it around the head of the screw. I will start heating it up and pulling it into the plastic so that this small brass insert, when it also heats up, goes inside. If I use the smaller screw, it would heat up sooner or quicker and it would be maybe better, but whatever, let's pretend I know what I'm doing. And this will get kind of hot, so don't be such a fool and use maybe some other precautions than just keep it in your hands like I do. Once I've done it, I will take this part with the brass insert there and I will put this screw with a hex key inside, just a few rotations. And the last step for those parts is to take some kind of wire. I will use a guitar string because that's what I have, and I need to attach it here on this tiny feature on the printed part. So as I said, I take a guitar string. Good thing about this is that it's very small diameter. It has small diameter, so it won't disturb us later during the assembly, and it's kind of strong. So what I will do is I put this into this slot like so, and then I bend it. I put it into this groove on top, and the rest I will bend downwards. And here I will use a small screwdriver to push the string back into the groove. Clippers. It jumped somewhere. And now let's clean this up. Let's push it in. And because I said I want to have it robust, I will melt this plastic with my old soldering iron so that this does not come loose. Or now I did it. I can actually put a tiny bit of glue in there to secure it even better. It does not have to be beautiful, it has to be durable. And one thing that we want in particular is for this surface to be more or less flat. So make sure that if you scrape on it, there are no sharp edges. We can file it a little just to make sure. Oh, now it should be fine. Coming back to this part, there is still this screw I did not mention. So again, we can actually use the hex key. As I said, this does not have to be, oh, wrong hex key. We can use the hex key here, yeah, and put it into this hole. And this is M3 screw, it does not have to be this particular type. We can already put it in there and leave it like this. So if you have this part prepared with the tiny screw on this side, bigger one on this side, and this arm with the screw here on the top and the strong wire, string or whatever, melted into it here, then you are good to go to the next step. So the next step is to take your beautiful WE L85 and push out those two takedown pins, one here on the top and one here. Let's put them away. And we will be doing things and changes only in the lower receiver, so you can just take this apart and put the rest away for the moment. You see that I already disassembled this fire selector, because that's kind of tricky. It looks like this, and it should be here. In order to disassemble it, you need to reach deep there, and there will be such a small tiny screw which you need to undo, and when you do it, it will allow you to pull this out. However, underneath this lever there is a tiny, bolt from bearing, yeah. When you will be taking off the lever, be careful, because underneath there is this tiny steel ball that you don't want to lose. So let's put this aside. Now we need to undo some more screws and pins. So the first one would be deep here. The screw looks like this. Let's put this aside. You need to unscrew the bolt release, which has one tiny screw here on the top. Now you can pull out the bolt stop, and you need to push out this pin. And in my case, this pin was very lively, and I have an HPA conversion, so I will just release the hose and pull it out of the conversion, because otherwise I won't be able to do it. And now we can start pulling out the trigger group, but there is this long rod sitting here. It's the rod from the trigger that you don't want to damage. So first you need to pull it out slightly, use some small screwdriver again, undo this tiny screw on the end, and it should be free. In my case, pin from, this is like some trigger pin from here, already fell out, so don't lose it. And there is also this part for the fire selector, so you also don't want to lose this one. And in my case, you can see that I have this HPA conversion kit with the bolt mechanism here. But if you have this or you don't, this modification that I show you will work the same way, so it's irrelevant for this purpose of this video. There is one more thing you need to do, however. You need to take off this beautiful useless lever, and you do it by undoing this brass long screw that is placed here. So you take some small flat screwdriver and you undo it like so. You can finish with our hands. These parts are very small, so be careful not to lose anything. And if you start pulling this out, there will be a spring hanging on the side of the rifle, so don't lose it also. Yeah, okay, good to go. First step is the trigger group. What do we do here? Almost nothing. We just take this arm with the string or wire, we put the wire into the groove, and we put this over this round part. And when you put it, you want to make sure that it moves freely. So in my case, it's not that easy, so I will just take a file and file this hole a little to make it work better. I filed the hole, so now when I put it back, wire into the groove, and then onto here, you can see it moves kind of freely. And possibly you start to understand the idea behind this whole modification, because when I pull this string, I lift up the bolt lock on the trigger group. What we will do now is we will put this back into the lower receiver. One thing to notice, there was this pin that I lost, so it fell off when I pulled this out, so be sure to put it back in. And you want to put back this part, and if you don't remember or don't know how it was here inside, then easy way to check it is to rotate this maximally to the right, like clockwise, and then fit this wall here this tiny wall against the stopping point here on the trigger group. Maybe you don't see it, but if you have the parts in your hands, you will definitely know what to do. So you want to put it in there, and this way, when you push it down, it should be a little sticking out here on the bottom. I don't know if you can clearly see it, maybe now. Oh, so it's sticking out, and here it goes to the maximum. We pick it up, be sure to route the wire like this, here over this portion, this sticking out wall, and take this out of the receiver, and let's put this back in. Again, this is not important that my conversion is here. You will do exactly the same. Now without this rear lever, it will be quite easy. We'll just drop in from the top, and we will secure it. For the moment, I won't put all the parts back because I want to show you something. So I will just secure it with this one pin for the moment. Let's push it in. Now we will take the lever, and we need to make a small modification on it. And on mine, it's already done. You have to file a flat wall here on the lever. If you look on it, there is the hole. If you look from the top, yeah, so there is the hole for this brass long screw that was holding this inside of the lower receiver, and we rotate it like 45 degrees, and here we want to have a flat wall, and the dimensions are from this end 6.5 millimeters, let's say. It does not have to be too precise, and here it is 10.5, so more or less like this. And it does not have to be very deep. You just take a file, put it here, file it. It's I don't even know if this is steel, but even if this is steel, this is airsoft steel, so it's worth nothing. When you do it, then we go back to the receiver. Be sure not to lose this tiny spring that is hanging here, and you want to push the lever back through the spring and the hole inside, and notice that this loose end of the spring has to go inside the lever so that it gives it this spring back effect. But before we push it completely inside, we will take the second printed part, this one. We will orient it this way, and we will put it onto the lever. And again, I'm not sure if the hole is of good enough quality that I will be able to push it lightly, but here actually I don't really care, so just I'm using some force in order to push it through. What you are trying to do is you want to set the small screw on this end against this flat surface that you filed. Okay, there we are. So right now this can rotate, and this screw is here, and this filing on the pin here is done in order to prevent this. So later you will tighten this screw and you will prevent this part from moving. So let's now push it till the end, and remember about the tiny screw, and it should go through the other side of your receiver. Okay, so the spring pushes like it should. The part is here. One thing you want to make sure that your plastic part does not hit the trigger box, so you might need to push this a little more to the side in case this happens. In my case, it's okay. The next step is to take this wire that should be now under the plastic part and put it into the groove here on the bottom side and through this hole behind the screw from the bottom. So it would be like this, and I make sure that this remaining portion goes into this groove below. Now what you want to do is to put this aside. Maybe you can hold it so that it won't come too loose, and you want to block this arm with this brass screw. Remember, you have to rotate this upside down in order to be able to put it in the proper orientation, like this. So now this lever should stay here, it should spring back, and this plastic printed part should be here. What you want to do next, after you make sure that this wire really goes into the slot below, you want to rotate. First of all, pull it not too strong, because you don't want to make it move because of just setting this up. Yeah? You want to use this lever to move that part. So first just make sure that it's straight. Put it under the head of this screw. You can rotate it a few times. And now tighten down this screw to press on this wire so that it stays in place. Okay, this should be fine now. Before we cut the wire, let's first tighten this tiny screw here to test this if we did it correctly and if this is okay, because if not, then maybe we need more wire, whatever. It would be a shame to cut it too short. So I'm gonna screw this one. Okay, so now let's test this. What you want to achieve is when you pull the lever up, you want this to move up. And it works. One remark, depending on how stiff this wire will be, you will limit the range of this lever. So if you put it there and this lever barely has to move in order to lift this up and you don't like it, you can make the wire looser. And the other way around, if you have to really pull this very, very high in order to move it, then you can make the wire tighter and then of course secure it with this screw. And it should work, yeah, according to your desire. What we can do now is to cut off this remaining portion of the wire. It's not needed. Now I will show you how you can disassembly and assemble this with this mod there. So let's take this out, and the rod is already disconnected. I will put this aside, but what's important, that the pins are shooting out. So now when you push this trigger assembly up, this wire won't let you because it is keeping the part here attached to this arm. So what you need to do is to loosen this screw. And when it's loose, this could rotate. And the longer this is, the more spare wire there is to allow for you to maneuver with the trigger assembly. So now just pull it up. And I push. And it came out. So I want to take off this lever on the bottom. And now it's a regular trigger box assembly that I can just pull out. So now when I have it, I need to do exactly the opposite in order to put it in. Meaning, first I put the lever, I prepare the lever first. I put the trigger box under this rear pin and I push down and it will come in. But in the meantime, when it's out, I need to put this lever back in and be sure to check that this wire goes in this groove like it should. Yeah? So now it's okay. Now I can push it back. Oh, sorry. Yeah, now it's okay. And this still works. I will secure this later. Now the trigger rod or whatever. If you push this out slightly, you will have this option to join them here. And this long rear plastic part will allow you some more movement in order to put the screw onto this hole and screw it. I'll do it now. Yeah, so after you do it, make sure that everything's aligned, everything works. Yeah, and here that nothing jumps out. Yeah, looks okay. And then let's push this back in. Okay, now secure this rear screw here. Yeah, and it still works. Let's put our pin back in. Let's put our bolt release lever back in, and let's screw it back with this tiny screw it was attached with in the first place. So here you go. Okay, and the last part we need to do here, oh, not the last one, sorry, there is one more. So the rear screw has to go back here. Don't know if you can see, but you just disassembled it 20 minutes ago, so I guess you know how you did it. Our mod works. So the last thing is to assemble this fire selector, and you remember I already had it disassembled. So what you need to do is now take this tiny screw, take the selector and this little steel ball, rotate the frame or lower receiver to the side, put the ball here, and now match the selector with that moving part inside. Yeah, not lose the ball, be sure. Yeah, and now try if that works. It works. So this is the most tricky part in whole process, is putting back this long tiny screw. So it goes there deep inside, and because I'm using such a thin guitar string, it will be easier for me to put this back because it's very deep there and this wire would disturb me. So I will use a screwdriver, and it has to be magnetized in order to make it anyhow possible. So I'll be back when I did it. Okay, so I attached this. The screw is there deep inside. Fire selector works. You can see this moves. The lower receiver is ready. So now the last thing we are left with is to put the upper receiver on and test our final product. Regarding some troubleshooting, if you have a problem that your bolt does not lock back because or it locks just for a moment and then drops, then probably this bolt blocking element on the trigger box is not getting as high as it should be. So this is the reason why we have this screw here on this part, and we can undo it and just a few turns, and this way we can set the height, how much this will pull the part on the trigger assembly upwards to make sure that this bolt will be caught by it. This is one thing that I had issues with initially, and this is one reason why I put a screw here instead of just making plastic part. we have our beautiful WE L85 with working bolt hole. And what's the purpose of this lever, how to use it? So if you want to lock your bolt back, basically if there is no magazine, you can pull it back, lock it back and load the magazine. Then any moment you can either release it by pulling back like I did previously, or you can push the bolt lock here, bolt catch, sorry, and the bolt will drop. Also, if you want, you can do it other way. You can just pull the lever up and then rock the bolt back and it will lock just the same way. So it works, it's fully functional, just like the real steel counterpart. If you want to learn more about this particular rifle, I highly recommend you visit YouTube channel of Forgotten Weapons and type in SA80. There are many videos about this particular weapon system. You can see how it works in real life. That's really interesting. Or another thing you could do is just join British Army and they will hand you one in the infantry units. But you have to be quick because they may phase out this sooner or later, so up to you. If you like this video and you would like to see more of this type of modifications for the GBBRs, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell not to miss any video, and put your comments below with your opinions. Lately I was not really uploading any videos because I started too many projects at once, but they are almost finished, like this one for example. So I plan to record more videos about this. If you are interested in this particular rifle, the WE L85 Custom by Frog Engineering with HPA engine, there will be a video soon coming up with some more information about this. There is plenty of other rifles just behind me down there, also waiting for their turn to be shown in a video. So that's it for now, and thank you for attention.